The city of Springfield is looking at the next steps in regulating legal marijuana usage. The city has already addressed how close dispensaries can be to schools and churches, but as Joe Hickman reports, now it's looking at what else the state allows cities to do.
There's a range of conduct that Amendment 3 doesn't protect.
How do we protect our public? And we face similar types of issues as we've talked about smoking in the past, and certainly alcohol.
That's going to be the challenge for Springfield and every other community in the state.
And what the Springfield City Council discovered at its weekly luncheon is that the legalization of recreational marijuana still has a lot of gray areas. For instance,
the constitutional amendment does allow us to regulate consumption of marijuana in public, but Amendment 3 by itself does not prohibit public consumption. There has to be some follow-up legislation, either at the state or local level, to actually put those restrictions in place.
So that means that right now, at least, it's legal to smoke pot walking down a city street. However,
anywhere you cannot smoke a cigarette, you also cannot smoke marijuana.
The city's Smoke-Free Act, though, does not prohibit smoking in a private residence or hotel rooms where smoking is allowed, and certain private places, including restaurants and bars, who may allow smoking in a patio area.
So in the places you can smoke a cigarette, I think under current code, you would be within the bounds of the ordinance to also smoke marijuana. Again, the restaurant can place their own limitations on their customers.
Restaurants, however, cannot sell marijuana-infused food because of federal laws and the fact that they aren't licensed to sell or make marijuana products. And when it comes to city ordinances relating to possessing drug paraphernalia,
things that previously would have been unlawful drug paraphernalia now would be considered legal.
The Park Board, which only recently clarified its alcohol policies, is now concerned about marijuana users at its facilities.
Not only with the possibility of injuring themselves or with the possibility of injuring others.
And there are also law enforcement questions.
If you're intoxicated and you're driving, there are clear limits on that. How do we regulate that for if you're under the influence of marijuana and you're driving?
And still to be determined is, are people who use medical marijuana subject to the same regulations as recreational users?
There's going to be some overlap there, but the same rules don't necessarily apply to both.
We're going to try to learn from some other cities and other states that are dealing with this and have dealt with this for quite a while.
Reporting for KY3, I'm Joe Hickman.